Poland just proved something the rest of Europe can no longer ignore. If you take defense seriously, Washington takes you seriously. After days of confusion over America's military posture in Europe, President Trump announced that the United States would send 5,000 additional troops to Poland, a country that has spent aggressively on defense, armed faster than many of its European partners, and positioned itself as one of NATO's most important frontline states. This is not just about 5,000 soldiers. It's about Poland's rise from NATO's exposed eastern flank to one of America's most important military partners in Europe. For decades, Germany was the country Washington could not bypass. It had the bases, the headquarters, the hospitals, the logistics routes, the operating system of American military power on the continent. But the war in Ukraine changed that map. Today, the most urgent part of NATO is no longer the comfortable rear base. It is the eastern frontier. Poland understood that early. It spent the money, it built the military, it aligned closely with Washington, and now Trump is making it clear that the United States of America will stand strongest with allies who carry the weight. For Poland, this is a historic rise. For Germany, it is a serious wake-up call. And for NATO, it may be the clearest sign yet that the old era of automatic American protection is being replaced by something harder, something more practical. That is, defense commitments must be backed by real defense capability. Hello, I am Winnie, a political scientist and international relations expert, and this is the Winnie Report. Let's cut through the confusion because the coverage has been messy. A planned American Armored Brigade deployment to Poland had been delayed as part of a broader Pentagon review of US force posture in Europe. This was not a symbolic paperwork change. It involved thousands of soldiers, equipment, planning, and mission designed to reinforce NATO's eastern edge. Vice President J.D. Vance described the delay as a normal review, the kind of adjustment governments make when reassessing global military priorities. But to countries sitting close to Russia's border, a delayed American deployment does not feel like routine administration. It feels like a signal that has to be studied carefully. Then Trump posted on Truth Social and the message changed instantly. He said that based on the successful election of Poland's new president, a man he had proudly endorsed, the United States would send an additional 5,000 troops to Poland. That wording matters. Trump did not frame the announcement as another vague NATO statement filled with polished diplomatic language. He connected it directly to leadership and the relationship between Washington and Warsaw. In plain English, the message was clear. Poland has become the kind of ally the United States of America wants to stand with. And that matters because Poland has not just talked about security. It has built policy around it. After Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Warsaw did not treat defense as a spending slogan for summit speeches. It turned rearmament into national policy. Tanks, aircrafts, artillery, missile systems, air defense, ammunitions, deeper US cooperation. Poland began behaving like a country that believes that peace survives only when danger sees strength in front of it. It was not simply about asking for protection. It was demonstrating commitment. It was spending heavily. It was hosting American forces. It was supporting Ukraine. It was making the case that if Russia is the most immediate military threat to Europe, then American presence should be strongest where deterrence matters most. That is the strategic logic behind this move. America is not leaving Europe. America is moving attention toward the part of Europe where the threat is most direct, and Poland is exactly where that logic becomes visible. Now, compare that with Germany. From much of the post-war era, Germany did not have to fight for its place at the center of American strategy. Its geography gave it that role. The Cold War gave it that role. Its economy gave it that role. Ramstein, Grafenwohl, Stuttgart, Wiesbaden, Landstuhl. These were not just points on a map. They were pieces of a system that made Germany the backbone of America's European presence. But history does not guarantee priority forever. Germany is not becoming irrelevant. That would be an exaggeration. The United States still relies heavily on German infrastructure, and no credible military planner can replace decades of architecture overnight. But Germany is losing something more subtle and politically painful. It is losing economic status. For years, Berlin could be cautious on defense, slow on military reform, careful to the point of paralysis, and still remain central because the old NATO map ran through Germany. That was the comfort of the old order. Germany could be Europe's economic giant while depending on America to carry much of the hard military burden. But the war in Ukraine exposed the weakness of that model. The countries closest to Russia stopped waiting for Western Europe to wake up. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia moved with a different sense of urgency because for them, Russian power was not an abstract question for policy seminars. It was a practical danger on the map. Poland moved early. Germany moved later. And in geopolitics, timing matters. Germany has announced a turning point. It has created special funds. It has promised a stronger Bundeswehr. Some of that progress is real and should not be dismissed. But late credibility carries a cost. If a country spends years hesitating that even genuine reforms arrive under pressure, that is Germany's problem. Berlin trying to rebuild military credibility at the exact time Washington is raising the standard for what credibility actually means. Poland's defense spending has become one of its strongest political arguments. Warsaw has been spending a much larger share of its economy on defense than Germany and is pushing towards levels that many Western European capitals even considered unrealistic. And in Washington under Trump, that matters because the calculation is changing. America is no longer judging allies only by history, prestige, or how long they have hosted US bases. It's judging them by what they bring to the table now. That is, defense investment, geographic importance, military readiness, and the ability to strengthen deterrence before a crisis begins. This is why the move should not be read simply as an abandonment. It is accountability. The real argument is not that Trump is weakening NATO. It is that he is pushing NATO toward a harder standard, that is, spend more, prepare faster, and place force where deterrence matters most. Poland has become the model. Germany now faces the pressure to match its economic power with military credibility. And for Berlin, troops are not the only part of the problem. The other part is long-range missile deterrence. Under a 2024 agreement between Biden administration and Chancellor Olaf's government, the United States was supposed to begin deploying long-range missile capabilities in Germany from 2026, including systems such as Tomahawk cruise missiles. But under the Trump's administration, that deployment has been halted or thrown into uncertainty, leaving Germany trying to revive efforts to buy Tomahawks and Typhoon ground launchers directly. So Berlin is not only facing a troop drawdown, it is also facing a dangerous long-range strike gap at the exact moment NATO is being pushed to take deterrence more seriously. And this is where Poland's position becomes even stronger. Poland does not have to convince Washington that the Russian threat is real. It has been acting on that assumption for years. It is close to Ukraine. It borders Belarus. It sits near some of the most sensitive geography in NATO. It understands that deterrence cannot be built at the last minute after the crisis arrives. It has to be visible before a crisis begins. And that's why the 5,000 troop announcement is so important. It tells Europe that Washington is no longer measuring allies by speeches or summit promises. It is looking at the map, the money, the military reality, and on all three, Poland makes the strongest case. It is close to the threat. It is investing aggressively, and it has spent years preparing for the possibility that Russia's war may not stop at Ukraine. If America wants to send Moscow a clear deterrent signal, Poland is the obvious place to put it. But this also creates a serious challenge for NATO. The United States remains committed to the alliance, but the burden can no longer remain one-sided. The American forces will not simply be placed according to the old habits. They will be placed where they create the strongest deterrent effect, where allies invest before the crisis arrives, and where the strategic value is clearest. Now, that may be uncomfortable for some European capitals, but it is not irrational, and this is where Moscow enters the picture. Russia does not need NATO to collapse in one dramatic moment. It only needs allies to move slowly, doubt each other, and argue over what America really intends. So when Trump says that 5,000 additional troops are going to Poland, do not only picture soldiers boarding aircrafts. Picture a red marker sliding across the NATO map. The old center was Germany. Rich, stable, cautious, indispensable. The new frontier is Poland. Exposed, armed, impatient, and determined to be taken seriously. Germany is not being abandoned in the dramatic sense that every American flag comes down tomorrow. That is not how military power works. But Germany is losing its automatic place at the center of America's European strategy. Poland is receiving more than troops. It is receiving status. Germany is losing more than soldiers. It is losing certainty. If Poland's reinforcement becomes the beginning of a larger eastern shift, Berlin will have to make a decision it has avoided for far too long. Does Germany want to remain Europe's economic giant with delayed military awakening? Or does it finally become a strategic power its size demands? But if Germany cannot close that gap, Poland will not just be a frontline state. It could become Washington's preferred European partner for the age of Russian confrontation. Poland moved early. Germany moved late, and Trump made sure the whole alliance could see the difference. If this analysis showed you the real stakes behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe to the Winnie Report and the notifications are on. I will see you in the next report.